just started spraying bullets in the old city streets.
The world's not going to talk about this. They're not going to ever mention it. It's not going to be in any news network.
Candies are handed out to celebrate the murder of a Jew.
This is the Israel Guys.
Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of fake news, you should connect to the true and authentic stories of Israel. Make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell, and we're going to pause for 1.3 seconds to make sure you can do that. Okay, now that you've hit subscribe, guys, glad to have you here. Remember, we're across all platforms, and we have a lot to get into today, and you're going to have to stick around to the end of today's episode if you want to see the 2 times in one day that Josh came
close to get a rock through my windshield.
On the moment of a rock throwing here in Samaria. Not once, but twice in the same day. And we had the video from that. That's at the very end of the show, so you have to stick around.
Luke, let's get to the most exciting thing first. Everybody's got to hear about this first.
We have a confession.
Yeah, what's
We've been keeping a secret.
Yes.
Super excited about this secret. But no longer, because the announcement is now one of the biggest things I think we've ever done. And that is that, you know, there is no social media platform in the world that is 100% focused on Israel.
That's right.
Until now. Because the Israel Guys app and social media platform is live and it's available on iOS and Google Play. So Apple and Google, you can go there right now and you can download it for free. And you can sign up 100% free, and you can start engaging with all of our content and interacting with each other. Guys, yes, it is a social media platform. It's also at app.theisraelguys.com. Link in the description below. It is our own app and platform, free of censorship, free of media bias, because it's all of our content. Our Israeli friends here in Judea and Samaria and Israel, their content, a bunch of them, we got them signed up this week. And it's also a place where you guys can post and you can engage and you can like and comment and you can talk to each other.
How about like no algorithm? Is that like a big deal? It's like no algorithm and no big tech. I think those are big too. No censorship. I mean, like everything that the problems with mainstream media and all the problems of the social media that's out there, these are like the big issues. But now we finally have a app that Israel-loving people can gather together and talk about Israel, talk about what's happening in Israel, news from Israel, and personal things that are happening on like a social media app. Like, this is incredible to me.
Yeah, we've been working on this for months. I'm so excited. We've been trying to keep it a secret, but you guys know now. So everybody, you got to go right now after this video is over. Go to your app store and download the Israel Guys for free today. It's 100% free. We're not charging for anything on there. And not only we get all the Israel Guys content from Israeli partners and friends here in Israel's heartland, but also personal content from Josh and I that you're not going to find on the YouTube channel or probably even other social media platforms. Like, this is the catch-all place, and other team members and staff members here in Israel as well. So, guys,
Luke, can I tell everybody really quickly why I believe so much in this specific project that we've done in creating this social media app? One is that Israel's losing friends around the world, like at a really rapid rate. And why is that? Because there's censorship. There's a lot of things, a lot of anti-Israel propaganda that's happening around the globe, and it's closing off the good of Israel that's being broadcasted around the world. There are people broadcasting, but it is being lowered. And as time goes on, we see anti-Semitism rising like crazy in the world, Jew hatred rising. Our message is being squelched. Okay, that's a huge problem. Jew hatred at the extreme rates. Okay, so how are we gonna come up against this, right?
Yep.
Well, this is our answer. We're gonna have to move it to another level, and this is why I believe in it so much. We have to be able to bring the truth of what's happening on our own.
Josh,
this is the first that I know of anybody doing such a thing.
We're taking the true and authentic stories of Israel and the people in the land to the next level. This is the hub. This is the center for Israel content, people, stories, land. It's all right there. So you guys need to go right now, actually after the video is over, download the Israel Guys app, sign up for free, and then come back and let us know in the comments that you just signed up.
That's right,
guys. Oh, and by the way, we're going to kick off. Next week is Hanukkah, and we're going to actually live stream only through the app, lighting the Hanukkah candles next week, midweek. So you're going to have to get on the app to get the announcement and be able to catch the live stream from that.
Luke, can we tell
Don't miss
everybody
it.
that we have Israeli friends all over the country that are also going to be posting on the app?
And they're
it's
already
not
there.
just us.
They
It's
are already on the
They're
app.
already on the app. They're already posting. This is like across Israel. You want to get news from Israel. It's not just from us. You want to hear like truth from Israelis right off the ground, like pictures. Here I am at wherever. Boom, there it is. Live news happening all over the land of Israel.
Yeah.
This is the way, the cutting edge way to connect to Israel right now.
You
This
guys
is the way.
gotta
Download
do it. Gotta do it.
Luke, we hate to talk about things like this. Moving on, but there was an atrocious terror attack in Jerusalem that we have to mention.
This is the first Israeli that has actually been killed in a terrorist attack since the Gaza war back in May of this year. So it's a very awful incident. Hamas terrorists, they are actually claiming this guy.
Well, Luke, we're going to talk about him more. First, we'll tell the story, but we have to.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about
So
who this guy was.
a terrorist in the old city of Jerusalem, just outside the Temple Mount,
Right.
pulled out a machine gun,
Yeah.
like an actual automatic weapon, and just started
Unload.
spraying bullets in the old city streets, running up and down the streets.
2 clips worth.
Yeah, killed a young man who we're going to talk about, Eliyahu K from South Africa, and wounded 4 others, and one of those is still in very serious condition in a hospital right
Praying
now.
for him.
So some think a terrorist named Fadi Abu Shkadem, and thankfully he was killed by security forces. But after
32 seconds later.
Yeah, after 2 magazines had been fired in Jerusalem's old city streets. Some people think he tried to disguise himself as an ultra-Orthodox Jew. There's a fuzzy picture of him. He's definitely some kind of like Arab leader figure, so this might just be kind of his Arab dress anyways. But he had a machine gun. It sprayed gunfire, and for quite a while, I mean, 32 seconds is a long time in an incident like that before he's finally shot and killed by security forces. Eliyahu David K., who is 26 years old, he was an immigrant. He was a lone soldier from South Africa. Now a lot of his family has actually joined him, so he pioneered the way. He served in the IDS paratrooper division, and he was engaged to be married in a few months. And he was a yeshiva student, and he was working for the Heritage Foundation at the Western Wall tunnels as a guide, was walking to work in Jerusalem when he was shot and killed by this awful terrorist.
He would go and pray at the Western Wall. That was like something he did a lot. So most likely he was going to pray at the Western Wall. I find it just outrageous. A man is going to pray. Another man is a murderer, blatant murderer, to kill and to try to quench that Jewish fire, to see the land of Israel thrive, and even a place of prayer, the Temple Mount, a place of prayer.
Yeah.
The Jewish people consider this a place of prayer. This radical Islamic terrorist takes out such a holy person, somebody that's bringing light into the world. This is just outrageous to me to see it. And Luke, every time, like this has happened so many times since we've been here in the land of Israel, attacks, things have happened, and the world continues to be absolutely silent. You will not hear. Unfortunately, I will continue to remember this story. We're going to remember Eliyahu. We're going to remember him. We're going to bring good into the world. His family is going to continue to bring good into the world. They're not going to go killing people. That's not what they do. That's not Israel's response. Israel's response is life. But you know what? The rest of the world is going to forget.
Right.
And they're not. Unfortunately, this is the state of the world. They don't remember,
and they won't ask the question, or they won't say never again, and they won't ask the question how's this going to stop, and they won't stand up and say enough is enough either.
And that's what we've got to say, and that's what we're bringing to you today. We've got to say, if the international world stood up and said enough is enough, Jewish blood is worth something. That's basically all we want the world to say, that Jewish blood is worth something, right? Because the rest of the world they don't care.
And unfortunately, you're not going to hear that on
They won't respond to
mainstream
that.
media at all. I want to talk a little bit more about this attack and the terrorists and how it kind of all came about. But first, we want to remember Eliyahu K., the man that was murdered. The Western Wall Heritage Foundation, where he worked as a guide, said, quote, "He raised the spirits of everyone. He did his holy work with dedication and loyalty." Other friends said about him, "It was so contagious the way he loved the country, and he really fought for Israel so much. It is hard to find people like Eli. He was unique, one of the righteous people of this world. It's impossible to describe him in words." And like I said, he was a pioneer that came from South Africa as a lone soldier, served in Israel's elite military unit, and paved the way for the rest of his family, or a lot of his family. I'm not sure how much is here, but a lot of his family is here now. And now they're mourning for him here in Israel.
I just wish I could have met him. I mean, he seemed like such an incredible young man. Like he was even volunteered in a different place. Like a lot of the work we do, he was very similar. Like working with the Shomer Chadash is one of the Israeli volunteer organizations where they go and they help farms and they volunteer to help secure areas that they're having problems. And he served in the IDF as like an elite soldier, like amazing.
I think when you have a lone soldier coming, basically it's a guy or girl leaving their family behind and saying, I'm going to Israel by myself.
Yeah.
When they have leave from the military, they don't have a family or friends to go to. So it's like almost one of the highest levels of Zionism, I think, because they're not only believing in Israel, but they're taking it to the furthest extent by saying, I'm leaving everything behind and coming to Israel. And that's what you see with LEK.
Yeah.
So
it's a great loss to the nation of Israel.
As you say in Israel, may his memory be a blessing.
Be a blessing, amen.
4 other people were wounded in the attack. One was Rabbi Ze'ev Katznelbogen, sorry, hard last name, a 46-year-old father of 8 who has been released from the hospital.
Thank God.
I think this is the photo of him here. And then Rabbi Aaron Yehuda, who is in serious condition, but doctors have great hope that he'll be able to start recovering.
Keep praying for him.
But he's in very serious condition. And then 2 lightly injured border guards who've already been released from the hospital.
Luke, what I found, again, outrageous. The world's not going to talk about this. They're not going to ever mention it. It's not going to be in any news networks. I was just looking. Washington Post, New York Times, they're all posting different things. And guess what? They're all absolutely 100% slanted evil against Israel. What you're never going to hear is that after a brutal attack like this, not only is we're going to talk about it in a moment, the outrageousness of Arabs not condemning this attack. That's, to me, I can't even begin to even think how they would not say this attack. Like, how could you not condemn this attack? That's outrageous.
I have these 2 points side by side because of the stark black and white contrast between them. LEK is murdered by an Islamist terrorist in Jerusalem. In Gaza,
that's what I was going to say.
Candies are handed out to celebrate the murder of a Jew.
Outrageous.
And we have photos to prove it.
And the world will not tell you this.
It's not a hidden fact, except for that the media will not report it. On the opposite side, what does Ellie's brother and his family say that their response is to his murder? They said they don't know what it will be yet, but they're going to plan to build something in the land of Israel in his memory. The Jewish side, the reaction to murder and terrorism is to build. The Palestinian Arab side is to hand out candies to celebrate the murder of a Jew in the streets.
And encourage more attacks against Jews, more innocent civilians to be killed. That's what they're encouraging. And that's, Luke, we're going to talk about the terrorist.
Yeah.
He was one who taught in Arab schools. We'll talk. He pressured people to, like, he convinced people to commit attacks against Israel. Like, that was his number one thing, was like to create, he was a Hamas
So you had
affiliate.
Back before 2015 when Israel banned them, you had these people, there's a term in Arabic for it, I don't think it really translates to English, but they're basically protesters. They were actually hired by the Waqf, the Jordanian Waqf, to go on the Temple Mount and protest when Jews and non-Muslims come on the Temple Mount. I mean, we experienced it. It was usually all these ladies that would just scream and yell. And then Israel finally banned them in 2015. The terrorist that murdered LEK, Fadi Abu Shkahu, was one of these people. And he, like, even though Israel officially banned him, he would still regularly go to the Temple Mount, preaching in the Al-Aqsa Mosque and basically protesting. And there's videos to prove it of him protesting any prayer or Jewish presence on the Temple Mount at all. Here's the kicker. He was an Israeli resident in East Jerusalem. He was not a Palestinian. He was an Israeli resident who has all the same rights, except for voting, as an Israeli citizen. So you can basically say an Arab Israeli resident, almost a citizen, living in Jerusalem. He preached at the mosques all around Jerusalem regularly, led protests against Jewish prayer and presence on the Temple Mount. He taught Islamic studies at a school in the Muslim quarter of the Old City, which means his salary was paid by
Jerusalem
Israel.
Municipality.
Yeah, the Jerusalem Municipality. Some refer to him as the, quote, senior Hamas official in Jerusalem. Hamas decided to claim him as one of their members, and he regularly approved of Hamas and their views in Gaza. In social medias that came out after the attack, he's seen chanting slogans on the Temple Mount, pledging to defend the site from aggression aka Jewish people coming
Praying.
up to the Temple Mount, or just walking around.
Right.
I mean, forget about praying, just
Right.
coming
Just
at all.
walking at all,
Right. And other videos that surface show him praising Palestinian prisoners that are sitting in Israeli jails and urging Muslims to fight against their oppressors. So basically, just a radical Islamist, and he decided to take it to the extreme level and become what they call a martyr by going and killing as many Jews as he possibly could.
Again, it's outrageous that there's a pro-Hamas, works in the Hamas realm of teaching and educating, that he's actually in a school teaching Arabs inside of Israeli schools. I mean, they're Arab-Israeli, right? Inside of the whole country's infrastructure of schools. Like, he's inside of that program, and he's teaching these children, obviously, his same motivations of why he would go himself and kill a Jew. Wake up, world. This is the state of Israel. This is what is happening here in the land of Israel.
I know
we have so many people inside of the land of Israel that are against the nation of Israel. This is outrageous to me to see that.
I just want to touch on this quickly because we don't really have enough time. But Mansour Abbas, who is the head of the Ra'am party in the coalition government here in Israel, he didn't exactly condemn the attack. He came out with a statement, I'm assuming in Hebrew, trying to basically condemn the attack. But then normally his statements, because he's the Arab party leader, right, are come out also in Arabic. And the statement condemning the attack just happened to not come out in Arabic. And when he was called out on it, he tried to issue some kind of real vague, like, we're always against violence, one of those type of statements. But it's clear he didn't want to condemn the attack, especially in Arabic, for sure. And this is a leader in the coalition in Israel's
and he
government
himself
today.
has a connection to Hamas as well. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's
by the way, whenever you see an Arab leader make a statement in English or Hebrew, always go and look up what they said in Arabic, because it's never, ever the same, for sure.
Luke, after the attack, Israel rightfully came in and they really started clean house. The Shin Bet, as well as other areas of Israel's defense forces, came in. They did a very large-scale clean out, and they found Hamas. They've already arrested 50 Hamas operatives throughout Judea and Samaria. They've confiscated funds as well as weapons and materials for making explosives. So pray to God that the Israeli forces, security forces, will have the ability to clean out, that these kind of attacks will not occur to the people of Israel, the people we love, the people we support here in the land of Israel. We need a strong Israel, especially in these days when the evil is raising its head. That's what's happening. Israel is, again, to tell you the level of what's happening here. They just did a drill just a few days ago. Based on that if a kidnapping happened, they basically ran through this drill of, okay, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. The whole scenario was focused on a kidnapping. So that means
they're prepping.
They're preparing for all-out
genuine fear for this.
For Israeli Arabs, just like the situation we just saw, to attack Jews. People that have legal rights in Israel, but are aligning themselves with Hamas ideology, are in Israel. It's no longer just outside. It's not just Iran and the forces in Lebanon now and the forces in Syria. Israel has its own battle inside by these Hamas figures that have actually infiltrated into even the schools.
Well, and it's something important for people to understand, just to make the distinction. And we were talking about it before the show. Israel's last war with Gaza, there was a huge problem with riots and violence inside Israel. Yeah. We're not talking about West Bank or Gaza. We're talking about inside Israel, Israeli citizens with Israeli Arabs. And no, we're not saying all Israeli Arab citizens are terrorists or hate Israel, but there's a large percentage of them that do. And so we're talking about, you not only have Gaza and Hamas, Palestinian Authority and Fatah, but you also have Israeli Arab citizens that are actually just wait. And you were saying that one of Israel's leaders saying that Israel's next war could look very different because there's so many Arab Israelis that would probably join the fight against Israel.
That's right.
It's a genuine
Luke, I want to
threat.
look at something real quick, because when we talk about the Oslo Accords, a lot of people were saying, well, what happened to the Oslo Accords? The Oslo Accords, in a real short nutshell, the idea was that Israel would pull out of the Arab areas and give the Arabs weapons and allow them a police force, and then by allowing this, right, this is what the world convinced Israel to do in the Oslo Accords. Then in response, the Arabs would then take care of their own issues, meaning they were going to squash the terrorists. No more will Israel have to deal with terrorism, right? You believable? Okay, they actually believed it. The Oslo Accords, that was the basic of the Oslo Accords, very basic. And that they were going to squash terrorism and hand the terrorists themselves, squash all the organizations, all the different organizations were going to be squashed under the PA. This was Oslo Accords again. And then they were going to hand over these offenders to Israel to be prosecuted. That was the signing of the Oslo Accords. This is what it looks like, right? So why we still have terrorism? It's very obvious, world. Israel is keeping every line of the Oslo Accords they signed on to. The Arab world is, or the Arab world, the Arabs here in Israel are keeping none.
Because they never meant
Nada.
to.
Nothing. They never meant to. It's
to.
a whole scheme to convince the world that they're one thing, and they're not here on the ground.
And they should be able to.
Following.
I mean, I didn't know this. You had this fact here that Palestinian Authority has the largest per capita police force in the world. If they wanted to, if they wanted to, they could squash out all terrorism in the Palestinian Authority areas.
They're the largest police capita for a country in the world, and yet they themselves can't do what they signed on to do, to control the terrorist organizations. Guys, it's very easy. They're a part of the terrorist organization. The PA police are a part of it. There's account after account of actually police joining the terrorists and shooting.
Brigades. They have like their PA police force that they try to keep. They try to keep an image of like moderate. No. But then they have like their military wing, and that's like. But anyways, yeah, it's just a huge mess. Josh, we got to wrap up. But you have a video. You happened on 2 rock throwing this week, and you caught it on video. So I think we should check that out.
Check it out. Now. On my way to Ariel, and a rock was thrown through a car window right in front of me. Now I'm on the way back from Ariel, and exactly the same story happens at the same spot again. The second car with the rock thrown through the windshield right behind me. Guys, that's lethal when you're driving down the road quickly. A road like this, look, these cars are zooming down the road. If you get a rock thrown in your windshield at that pace, it's lethal. We just had awful terror attack yesterday. The rock throwings now, obviously just twice while I went out to town. That's what's happening. Guys, this is what's going on here in the land of Israel. This is what we're here to tell you. This is just what's happening.
Josh, I want to say too, content like that is what you can expect on the Israel Guys app and social media platform. Not only from you, not only from me, but from our Israeli friends, because we're in Samaria. We have friends in Judea, friends in Binyamin, the Benjamin region, in Jerusalem.
That's right.
So that's the kind of content you can expect on a daily basis. Josh, we just got these awesome new hats. They've been on our store for a while, but because we're in Israel, we were like the last ones to receive them. So you guys need to see these. Epic, and you need to get your hat today at theisraelguys.com. Not
T-shirts,
only that, we got
hats.
shirts. Maybe we should wear them on the show next week. Never know, but you guys got to check it out, theisraelguys.com. And if you go right now, we're starting our Black Friday sale, but it's not going to last for too long.
Nice.
Almost everything is on a massive sale in the spirit of Black Friday and this season. You got to get everything. You get your hats, get your shirts, get your Israel Guys merch, and lots of other products right now at theisraelguys.com. Link in the description below. Guys, go download the app. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and whatever platform you listen on. Tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening right here in the land of Israel. We'll be back next week here at the Israel Guys.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe if you like that content. We can get it to you every week right there at your fingertips. If you really liked it and have questions, anything, we love comments. Go ahead and leave us a comment as well. If you'd like to even go further, your support would be greatly appreciated. We've got lots of content, lots of ideas that we want to keep pushing out there. If you want to support, you can go to our Patreon page or check us out at theisraelguys.com.